Welcome to the Growth Lab. This is the podcast dedicated to the business of beauty and vitality. Today, we're sitting down with Uli Chettipally, which is the founder of Circa Therapeutics. It's an amazing practice that features revolutionary therapies on autism. Let's find out more. This episode is brought to you by MedSpa Accelerator. We help medical practices and med spa clinics solve the bottleneck of inconsistent, unqualified patient leads to achieve a predictable, scalable monthly revenue without staff burnout. We're absolutely thrilled to have Yuli join us to discuss the future of patient care and these unique therapies. Let's get started. Good afternoon, Yuli. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I'm really excited to dive into your story, Yuli. I like to frame these conversations simply past, present, and future. We're going to start with your origin story. What got you into the autism industry, I guess, as it were, and the research and development of it. And then I want to talk about present reality, what's working, what's causing friction, and what's keeping your doors open. And then finally, we'll look at future outlook, which is going to be your vision for the next 3 years, 5 years down the line. And that way, we'll cover full spectrum of building out a successful clinic. Does that sound like a good roadmap?
Sounds good.
Excellent. Great. Let's go ahead and get started. So what made you want to get into autism therapies?
Well, Jason, everything was going great. I was finished my residency in emergency medicine, got my first job here in South San Francisco, and I joined a big, large healthcare company, got promotions. I was the chairman of the department. Everything was going great, except when we had our first child. She had a problem, and the problem was later diagnosed as autism. She was not able to interact with people. She was, uncomfortable, crying most of the time. And she could not speak as she became a toddler and a kindergartner. She could not speak. And she had these behaviors that were concerning for us as parents. And
Of
so
course.
that's how it started.
I see. Yeah, that can definitely change your trajectory, right?
Yeah. And so since that time, I've been looking for, what are the treatments available? Is there a test for this? Is there a drug for this? Is there, how do we know how this child will be when she grows up? And so there's none of that information available. And so that's when I started my own quest of trying to find solutions for this challenge because I could not see my daughter go through this life without mitigating it or helping her thrive in her future.
Absolutely. I certainly understand that. And I personally know some children that definitely do have autism as well. And the parents are struggling on a daily basis, right? Just to cope with it. You've got, video games that you try to occupy them with, or you try to use something else like the TV to distract them. And, it's kind of got a mix of ADHD in there as well, where they're kind of running around all the time. So I can definitely understand that situation. And what led you to kind of where you're at right now?
So it can be very challenging for parents. Like you said, they are occupied 24/7 trying to figure out how to mitigate this problem. And it never ends. And it's a lifelong thing. There's no cure for it. And so you have to figure out ways to, control the symptoms, especially if they're not. About a third of children are non-speaking. They cannot speak.
Hmm.
And about 40% have other problems like seizures or aggressive behaviors. And then I've heard and spoken with many parents where their child, when then it grows up into an adult, they start beating their parents because their parents are the ones that are trying to control those behaviors, and they become the target. And they cannot take them out into the community. They cannot go out and have a meal in a restaurant or go to school or do anything for that matter. And so their whole life becomes hijacked by this condition. And that's where I was thinking of how can I help this situation. And so,
And what
yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what have you been doing in the meantime, to try to cope with that?
Going to all these specialists, going to, trying different schools, private schools, specialty schools, talking with therapists, and basically nothing helps. And that was my conclusion. And eventually we had to put her on medication
Mhm.
to calm her down, and because she was getting frustrated and she was becoming very aggressive,
Mm.
and she would eat a lot, and she gained a lot of weight, and so that made it even worse, anxiety and aggressive behaviors. And so that was the only solution, which is give them medication, you drug them enough that they will calm down. But also, that's a sad side of things, is that medications always come with side effects. Number one is they become drowsy and almost like zombies. And also, medications will have side effects of increased appetite. So they eat a lot, and so they gain a lot of weight. And so
Mm.
it's not a simple solution. There's no simple solution. And
What
so,
medication are we talking about that's typically prescribed for autism? Are we talking about trazodone?
yeah, typically, anti-anxiety, antidepressant medication. By the way, there's no specific medication for autism.
Oh,
It
really?
hasn't been discovered yet. And so it is the generic, anxiety medicines and antidepressant medicines, and they
Oh,
all
okay.
have side effects, right?
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
that was the challenge we were facing. And so at one point we thought, okay, she's gaining weight, and she's staying home. She's done with the school. The school system ends when kids turn 22, and there's nothing else after that. Either you send them to a daycare program where they're babysit, and of course, if you have aggressive behaviors, they'll say, yeah, give her more medication. And so we could not watch that. We could not see that happening to our daughter, because we know that she's underneath. She's a very bright and very good person, but the challenge takes over. And so what we did was we started her on an exercise program, and the
Okay.
exercise program was pretty intense, and it's a very specialized program by trained therapists, that they would take 3 to 5 days a week of intense exercise, including weightlifting, boxing, circuit training, aerobics, all of that. Pretty intense program, 1 hour session each day. And what we noticed was that her behavior started coming down. Although initially the exercise program was hard, it was very hard for her to do it. Levels came down, and we were able to wean her off of all medication. And because of her anxiety going away, she was eating less. And so, the 30 pounds she gained came off, within a few months.
Wow.
And yeah. And so we saw this dramatic shift in her attitude, in her behaviors. She became much more pleasant and more manageable. And so that's when I thought, wow, how can we implement this exercise program for many people that don't know, number one, and they don't have the resources to be able to do it. You need two people to take her there and manage with her, and these specialized coaches that make her do it. And there are very few of them in the country. And so I was looking for a solution, and by that time I decided to take early retirement from my job and take this on full time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so my first company was basically that, looking for these solutions that would work. And that's when I met this company where it was early stage. And this was about 6, 7 years ago, where it's an early stage company where they were developing this machine system for stroke rehabilitation.
Oh,
And so it was very intriguing. The technology was very intriguing. They were using VR games to help people exercise. So they are not only exercising their body, but they are exercising their mind, because it is a very deeply immersive experience.
mhm.
And so I kind of got curious. And so I joined them as the chief medical officer, and I helped them build the prototype. And when I saw the early results in stroke patients, I said, wow, this might work for autism too, because we knew that, for my daughter Siri, it was exercise. How do you make people exercise without forcing them to exercise and make it into an enjoyable experience? And that's
Mm,
when we thought, okay, so this machine is a robotic machine and
okay.
it tracks everything that you do on the machine. And as you pedal, it looks like an exercise bike, a fancy exercise bike, but it moves sideways, forward, upwards, backward, all of those things. As the person pedals, and put on VR goggles, they are placed inside this video game as one of the characters. So you become a
Oh,
character inside the game. And as you ride this machine, you're actually riding a vehicle inside the game.
that sounds super fun.
It is crazy fun. So as you ride this machine, you're going through different paths and different, all these scenes come up and you're going on trails, in the forest or by the river. And they are supposed to navigate by steering with their arms and pedaling with their legs. And so whatever they do on the machine is replicated in the game.
Mhm.
And whatever happens in the game, they feel it in the machine. So for example, if there are bumps on the road, the machine jumps, right? And so
Mhm.
it actually translates the video game into a physical experience. If you're going uphill, the machine tilts up and it becomes harder to pedal. If you're going downhill, it becomes easier and the wind blows on your face faster. So you're actually feeling that you're coasting or you're going downhill.
Mhm.
And all the twists and turns and you feel everything. What it does is on the science side, I'm coming to the science side. What it
Okay.
does is you're hijacking the brain, putting it into this virtual environment. You're bombarding with all the sensory input and the motor output. And so you're basically functioning in this virtual world, which is a deeply immersive state. And the reason why we need to do that is then your brain is being bombarded with all these signals and your body is responding to it. And so you're creating an environment in the brain to create new nerve pathways. That's the neuroplasticity that happens. And that's what helps overcome the symptoms.
Okay, so improving neuroplasticity, is that a end all be all cure for autism?
No, but it is a good way to control a lot of the symptoms like anxiety, like aggressive behaviors, like sleep problems, and like focus. Those are the four things we think we can target with this kind of a therapy.
I see.
That's what is exciting.
The technology is certainly impressive. It's using robotics, using virtual reality, using exercise, using video gaming.
Yeah,
Is the goal to have more of these machines spread out in clinical settings nationwide?
exactly. So, what we're doing right now is we're going to be starting our clinical studies. Right now, we are raising our pre seed round. So, if any of your audience is interested, please contact me.
Oh,
But we are
we'll have a
raising
link
this.
in the description.
Perfect. We are raising this money so that we can set up the first flagship clinic here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and have people start using it and develop clinical evidence to show the improvements. And so our first studies are going to be done here. But once we prove that it works, then we will be able to franchise it out to other clinics that may want it. So they can lease the machine and get a license, and then they can use it in their clinics
That's
for
amazing.
these neurodivergent individuals, whether it is autism, whether it is ADHD, Asperger's, all of those things, it'll work.
Oh, wow. That's pretty great. And I imagine that's probably already a wait list for on the consumer side that you need,
Yes.
patients or children, to come in and actually use the machine so you can get the data on that as well. Am I right? Can
Exactly.
we also go to the website down below so
Yep,
potential parents can get signed up on that as well?
exactly. There's a
Okay.
contact list, contact page, and they can sign up there and get updates on what we are doing.
Okay, so they can get into that. Okay, and that's going to be SIRICATX.com, which is the
Yes.
website for Circa Therapeutics.
Yeah.
and there's going to be a contact button at the bottom. And I believe
Yes.
that's going to be the very best way. Is that correct, Yuli?
So that's the best way to get information about the company. But if they want to contact me, the best way is through LinkedIn. You
Okay.
can find my name on LinkedIn, Uli K, Chettipally, and then
Okay.
just send me a message, a direct
We'll put a
message.
link in the description as well for that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else like your device or the prototype that's in research or on the market right now?
Yeah, no, nothing like this. So this is a very unique and the first
Okay.
foray into this type of therapy. We are calling it cognitive sensory motor therapy.
Cognitive sensory motor therapy.
Yeah, so it includes, the thinking part, the sensing part, and the doing part all together in one
Mm,
therapy.
that's great. And how much does one cost? Just so we can get an idea.
Yeah, the machines are very expensive because obviously, we are building it one machine at a time.
Mhm.
But once it goes to, manufacturing outside of the country, then it drops. And like any other technology, robotics is going to become very ubiquitous, as Mr. Musk has been telling us that, everybody will have a robot in
That's
their
right,
home,
the Tesla robot, that's right,
in
and
the
and
homes and
hopefully
all
that
that. So
that can also be helping because he's those are in production right now
yeah,
in the
yeah.
California
Yeah.
factory.
So what happens is, this technology will become much more easier to build and cheaper as time goes on. But we are not going to wait for that. We're going to get started as soon as possible, get all these studies done, get all the regulatory hurdles and everything cleared. Right now it's cleared as a lifestyle device.
Okay.
And so FDA has said go ahead and use it. But we want to build the clinical evidence to show that it actually improves outcomes for
A
patients.
and how long will it take you to get that data, that clinical data?
1 year.
1 year. Okay,
Yeah.
so is that I'm just gonna go ahead and extrapolate from there. Is that the biggest goal for 2026 is to get
That's
that data?
get the machine, set up the center, and actually have people start using it. That's the goal for this year.
Okay, that's
Then
great.
obviously we have to raise more money to do the full clinical trial, but this is the first step.
Absolutely. It definitely sounds like a very worthy investment in children's futures that do have autism.
Definitely. There are 2 million people that cannot speak. If you look at
Mhm.
the whole number, it's about 7 million.
Yeah.
And so that's a big chunk of our society.
I know children personally that have autism that can't speak. I've seen them, I've been around them. I definitely do understand that.
Yeah. And it not only affects individuals, it affects the families, it affects the schools, it affects the therapy centers. It affects everybody. So it's a huge challenge.
And what do you think some of the challenges are? We've kind of gone over the good stuff and we've gone over some of the goals in the present reality. What are some of the challenges and the hurdles do you think that you're going to be going through it this year to get to that goal that might hinder your progress?
Well, the first challenge is being able to raise the money. So we're raising
Hmm.
500,000, but when you talk about new things and expensive things, people get scared, right? But
Hmm.
if we don't do these bold bets, we're never gonna come up with solutions. And so that's the first challenge, raising the money. The second challenge is going to be, will we have enough data? Will enough patients come to the center to be able to? So we have to do a lot of a big marketing campaign and social media campaign. I do it on LinkedIn, but so that's going to be the next challenge.
Well,
And the third,
hopefully this podcast will help, Yuli. You can share this around and you can show it to other clinicians and other investors and other parents that have children with autism. And hopefully we can get you some more for that clinical data.
yeah, and that's where we're getting the most traction from the families and parents that actually have a child and they understand the challenge and they see this as a potential solution. And so we are very happy about that. As
Wow.
always, every startup has its own risks, but I've dedicated my career to this to solve this problem. They're done that a few times. So I think I can do it. And my team is great. We have some great technologists and great business people so helping us.
Yeah, you definitely have put a lot on the line, as it were, giving up your whole
Yeah.
previous career,
Oh, yeah.
and switching over to this segment.
Yes.
It's quite a brave decision on your part. I applaud you for that.
Thank you. And, when I took my daughter there, she loved it. And then when we did our first study looking at safety and feasibility, 9 individuals with autism tried the machine and they gave us feedback. The main question was, how much fun is it? And they gave us a score of 9.3 out of 10. Average.
Wow. Wow, that was the average score.
That's the average score.
Okay,
And
great.
we were
Wow, that
able
is
to answer the main questions, which is, will autistic people sit on the machine because, for the session? Will they put on VR goggles? Will they have any adverse reactions? Will they freak out or will they be able to learn how to play the game? Right? You have to learn. This is the first time they're trying something like this. And so within 2 to 3 minutes, every one of them were able to figure out what they are supposed to do. And so
absolutely.
we are very excited because, that kind of gave us, okay, this is great and people are going to love it. And that's the main thing. Most of the therapies, kids hate going to the therapist.
Yeah.
This is more fun and games. And so we're hoping that that will turn the tide, especially these young adults, teenagers, and those cases are the hardest to deal with because of the aggressive behaviors and
Yeah, right. It sounds like in terms of challenges, the main challenge is basically getting the correct investors on board to reach that $500,000 in revenue and also getting the correct patients and the data for this year. Is that correct?
those are
Okay, fantastic. Well, it sounds like it's not really a system process problem. It's more of a kind of a people problem, and we need to get more people and more traction behind this cause. And I definitely think it is a worthy cause. And
thank you.
thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the show today, Yuli. I really do appreciate it. The website is going to be Circa Therapeutics, and we're also going to be putting a link to the doctor's LinkedIn down below as well. Okay, great. And it's been such a fantastic breakdown. Your story definitely did touch my heart, Yuli. So thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks for being so candid about the operational reality. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from your origin story to the future of these revolutionary therapies. And I know that our audience is going to get immense value from this. And
Thank
with
you.
that,
Thank you,
we're going to
Jason.
go ahead and wrap up the recorded part of the Growth Lab. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to you and your audience for watching this.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Bye now.